All right, so today we're going to do a deep dive on JJ Jansen.
Oh, wow.
And you might be thinking,
Long snapper.
yeah, a long snap.
Deep dive.
Really?
Oh,
But I think that this is going to be a really fascinating one.
I'm intrigued.
Because this guy has been snapping for the Panthers for over 15 seasons.
It's unbelievable.
And he just re-signed for another year.
Wow.
At 37 years old.
Okay.
I mean, that's
ancient for
practically ancient for
football years, especially for a long snapper.
Especially for a guy who's launching himself backwards into 300-pound linemen on every other play, right? So how has he managed to stay at the top of his game for so long?
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're right. Most players at that age, particularly in such a physically demanding position, they're thinking about hanging it up, you know?
Yeah.
But Jansen seems to be defying father time.
Yeah.
And it's not just about longevity. It's about consistently performing at an elite level.
Right.
I mean, he is a master of his craft. A true testament to dedication and meticulous preparation.
So let's rewind a bit for those who might not be familiar with Jansen's story. How did this kid from the Chicago suburbs become a Carolina Panthers legend?
Well,
we know he played at Notre Dame.
Right.
But long snappers rarely get drafted. So what was his path to the NFL like?
It's a story of perseverance, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Undrafted out of Notre Dame, he signed with the Green Bay Packers initially.
Okay.
But that didn't quite pan out.
Right.
Then in 2008, he landed with the Carolina Panthers. And the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because the Panthers, from their very inception, have placed a huge emphasis on special teams. They understood that games are often won and lost by just a few points.
Yeah.
And special teams can be a decisive factor.
Now, I'm curious about that emphasis on special teams.
Okay.
I know it's important, but how did the Panthers bake that into their DNA from the very beginning? I mean, they were a brand new franchise back in '95.
Well, their first head coach, Dom Capers, came from a background where special teams were highly valued.
Okay.
And that philosophy has persisted throughout the franchise's history. Think about it. They've had 2 Super Bowl appearances in 2003 and 2015.
Yeah.
And in both of those seasons, their special teams units were absolutely crucial to their success.
Oh, for sure.
They had guys like John Cassay, a super reliable kicker, and Steve Smith, a dynamic punt returner.
Right. And then Jansen comes along and just solidifies that legacy of strong special teams play.
Absolutely.
But it's easy to overlook the long snapper, right? It's such a specialized position.
Exactly. And that's what makes Jansen's story so compelling.
Yeah.
He's a master of this often invisible skill.
Right.
I mean, think about the physics involved.
Okay.
He has to snap that ball 15 yards with pinpoint accuracy in less than 0.75 seconds and put a tight spiral on it all while a 300-pound defensive lineman is charging at him.
Oh, my goodness.
The timing, the strength, the precision, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the physics there.
Yeah.
We've talked about how the Panthers value special teams and how Jansen embodies that.
Right.
But what about the actual mechanics of being a long snapper?
Yeah.
I have to admit, I don't know much about what goes into perfecting that skill.
Well, it's fascinating, actually. Jansen has talked about how it's not just about brute strength. It's about finesse and technique.
Oh, okay.
His grip on the ball, the angle of his release, even his footwork, all of it has to be perfect to ensure that the ball arrives at the holder's hands in exactly the right position on time every single time.
Wow.
It's like a golfer's swing or a pitcher's delivery. Years of practice, repetition, and fine-tuning go into every snap.
So it's about muscle memory then, just drilling it over and over again.
That's definitely a part of it. But Jansen goes beyond that.
Okay.
He meticulously studies film of himself and other snappers looking for any tiny flaws or inconsistencies in his technique.
Wow.
And he doesn't just practice on the field. He's incorporated a rigorous weight training program to develop the specific muscles he needs for snapping. And he even does mental exercises to visualize those high-pressure situations.
Oh, wow.
It's a holistic approach.
Yeah.
Mind and body working together to achieve that perfect snap.
That level of dedication is incredible.
It is.
I mean, we often hear about quarterbacks studying film for hours on end.
Right.
But to think that a long snapper puts in that kind of effort, it really speaks to his work ethic.
It does. And that's where I think we start to see the connection between Jansen's longevity and his mindset.
Okay.
He's not just talented. He's relentless in his pursuit of excellence, even in a position that doesn't always get the spotlight.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, What drives a guy like that?
It does.
What keeps him going year after year, especially when he's already achieved so much?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And I think it's something we'll explore further as we delve deeper into his story.
Okay.
But I suspect it has something to do with a love for the game, a deep sense of pride in his craft, and maybe even a desire to prove that age is just a number.
All right, so we've talked about Jansen's journey to the Panthers, the team's emphasis on special teams, and the technical and mental demands of long snapping.
Right.
But let's not forget that iconic moment, the 2015 NFC Championship game against the Arizona Cardinals.
Oh, yeah?
That game-winning field goal made possible by a perfect snap from Fisid. Jansen sent the Panthers to the Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
What do you think was going through his mind in that moment?
Well, it's hard to say for sure, but I can imagine the pressure was immense.
Yeah.
The entire season, all their hard work came down to that one play.
Right.
And for Jansen, it was all about blocking out the noise.
Yeah.
Focusing on his technique and trusting his preparation. He couldn't afford to let the magnitude of the moment affect his execution.
And he delivered.
He did.
I mean, you can watch the replay of that snap, and it's a thing of beauty.
Oh, it is.
Perfect spiral right to the holder's hands, all while a sea of red jerseys is bearing down on him. It's a microcosm of his entire career, really.
Yeah.
He shows up, he does his job flawlessly, and he enables his teammates to succeed.
Absolutely.
And that brings us to a really interesting point. Jansen's recent re-signing at 37 years old, it wasn't just about him.
Right.
The Panthers are in a bit of a rebuilding phase right now.
Yeah.
With a lot of young players on the roster.
They are.
What do you think his presence brings to that locker room?
Oh,
those young guys who are just starting out their NFL journeys.
His experience, his leadership, it's invaluable to those young players.
Yeah.
He's a living example of what it takes to have a long and successful career in the NFL. And it's not just about what he does on the field.
Right.
It's about his work ethic, his professionalism, his dedication to his craft.
Yeah.
He sets the standard for everyone around him.
It's almost like he's become this unsung hero, a mentor guiding the next generation of Panthers.
Absolutely.
And that, I think, is what makes his story so compelling. It's about so much more than just snapping a football. Yeah. It's about leadership, perseverance, and the impact we can have on others even when we're not in the spotlight.
That's right. It really is. Think about those people in our own lives who embody that same spirit.
Yeah.
The coworker who always goes the extra mile, the friend who's always there to lend a helping hand, the family member who keeps everything running smoothly behind the scenes.
Right.
You know, we might not always shower them with praise, but their contributions are absolutely vital.
You know, it's funny you should mention that. I was reading an article about Jansen's training regimen, and it's intense.
Oh, yeah.
Even at 37, he's still pushing himself harder than guys half his age.
Wow.
He's adapted his workouts over the years, focusing on mobility, flexibility, and injury prevention.
Smart.
He's even incorporated